Perfect. So
I'm gonna disguise my voice a little later.
all right. So yeah, I think it's recording. So welcome, Tim. We're gonna try to jam this together, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So how many of you have had a chance to look at the Open Innovation report or the last year report from the prompt? Okay, none of you had a chance to look at it. Okay, cool. And okay, let me see this. Tim, you want to say something about
Yeah, sure,
about the
sure.
format, let's say?
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll go through the report and then.
Yeah, sure. So the very first Collabathon was in November of 2019. This open climate project is conceived as a much, much bigger, Tiberius uses the word container, you know, so it's a much, much bigger frame. And within the big frame of the open climate project is this expansive reference architecture called the Open Climate Platform. And it reaches into every kind of component that you can imagine in a global platform that would facilitate interjurisdiction, fungibility, and definition of carbon credit. You know, it's, I think if you've looked at that and you've gotten the idea from the talks, you have an idea of just how expansive that is. The other thing about it is that it relies for the trust, for the international level of trust and participation that really is necessary. It's the strategy or the theory of change underlying it is that it should be open source and it should gather participation from around the globe. So, you know, I think we all know in our own experience and working with others, there's a big difference between something someone hands you and something you make yourself. So that sense of ownership and the change of perspective that comes with that is what we're trying to activate by in inviting everyone around the world to participate in the open source process and the open innovation process of building this platform as a strategy, if you like, to enhance the level of trust and accelerate the pace at which that trust emerges and develops and is secured among the parties. Because if people are going to trade an account and trust the numbers, that's kind of a requirement beyond what blockchain and distributed ledger technically will deliver. Okay, so that's a big part of it, and that's a huge expansive task. It's almost almost sounds impossible. And these Collabathons are conceived of as a sprint, sort of like a development sprint, and as well as an engagement and an outreach to that growing community. And so so the first one occurred in November of 2019, aligned with the COP25 event in, I think, Madrid eventually. And so, as you can imagine, with something at the scale that I just described, having really kind of just launched not that long ago, it's very nascent still, very early days. So, so what we're focusing on in this session and what we did in November was, okay, let's make sure that we're watching like good scientists, so to speak. We're watching the processes, we're understanding what's happening, we're trying to quantify a little bit, we're looking for clues, we're asking people about their experience, what can be improved, etc. And so this session is really to review a bit of what happened for the Sensorica Open Innovation Prompt in November 2019 as a prelude and as an entryway into, okay, where do we take it from here? So there's sort of there's a looking back to see what we did in that kind of an analysis, and then some discussion about that maybe, and then also looking forward, where could we take that to meaningfully continue to try to develop in that direction. And I'll just, Tiberius, it might be valuable to briefly introduce what Sensorica is if people never looked at that, because it makes sense why Sensorica was the one that chose to do this prompt, and people may not know the background. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. So always ask the question, have you heard about Sensorica before? Just to see at which level I should speak about the organization and the model. No. Okay, people are saying no. How come I can't see everybody here? I would like to see more. Okay. So it's not important what Sensorica is. What's important is the model that we use. And one way to frame this is to think of Sensorica as an organizational model that maximizes, let's say, that runs on stigmergy. I'm gonna throw some words there, but I will define them. Runs on stigmergy and tries to optimize social intelligence. Okay, what do I mean by stigmergy? Stigmergy is how ants operate. Okay, they have a very simple communication system, but a very complex behavior. So how do they do that? Essentially, they leave traces in their environment. They leave chemical cues in their environment. And if you want to transpose it to our work, you leave digital cues in your digital work environment. You document, you leave notes and indications to people. So ants, when they find food, let's say, they leave a chemical trace. So that trace, it's a cue for the other ants to understand, to know what's happening in their environment. In this case, like, where's the food? And then they follow the trace, get the food, bring it back, and reinforce that chemical trace, telling the other ants, like, this is really an important source of food. And so a very simple communication mechanism, very simple rules, but yet it can lead to very complex behavior. And when we look at an ants colony, we might think that, you know, they have a very complex, organization and governance and so on. In fact, it just boils down to very simple rules. So that is stigmergy, and we observe that many of these online peer-to-peer communities run based on these principles, right? So how do you scale a project like the Open Climate Collabathon without going crazy with meetings and heavy coordination? Well, the way to scale it and minimize impact on individuals, to free their time to focus on what's on productive work rather than organizational tasks, then I think it's to copy the way the ants organize, right? So what we're trying to so that is Sensorica. We're trying to perfect this art of collaborating in this mode. And social intelligence is, at the methodological level also, how do we think as one, instead of being a bunch of people in silo, creating pieces of the puzzle and coming to put it together? How can we become one brain? Okay, so let me give you an example here. You probably had this experience with some of your friends saying, let's write a text together, let's write a funding proposal together. And then normally what people do is they assign themselves different parts of the text to work on. So they say, okay, you're gonna work on, I don't know, or you're gonna do the introduction, and you're gonna work on that part of the main body of text. You're gonna work on that argumentation. Somebody's gonna work on the conclusion. Well, that's one way to collaborate, but how about everybody's writing on top of everybody else? Okay, so you might say, wow, this is complicated. How can we do that? How, you know what I'm saying? But there is a method that allows you to reach there. Okay, so there is a method that that prepares the individuals to think in sync and reach that level where they just write on top of each other. And they have the structure, they have internalized the structure, they know where they're going, they kind of know how everybody's thinking and everybody's strengths and weaknesses. And now we all think together in sync, almost in real time. So it happens very often in Sensorica for us to get on a text together following this methodology. And 60% of the time, 70% of the time, we're just forging this collective brain. Okay. And then once we start writing, once we start the producing the text, it's amazing because you get all these perspectives at once at the same time. Okay, so this is possible to do. So that's what Sensorica is doing also. Instead of having a bunch of people working independently and trying to stitch this together into something that looks coherent, okay, can we enhance this social intelligence? Can we actually act as one brain? Okay, and we think there's benefits. So we're bringing this experience and these models, okay, and the tools and methodologies that we have developed on the Collabathon as an organization. And we're not trying to impose anything on people, but we started to observe how things work in the beginning and try to align them slowly towards that kind of efficiency. Okay. So we're playing the role as a feedback mechanism, trying to observe what doesn't work, and then slowly propose and introduce these measures so that they get adopted, not because we say so, but because people understand that there is a need here and there, and maybe these are the best solutions that have been proposed. Is that okay, Tim? Does that satisfy your?
Yeah, that's great. As you were talking, and we can open up to conversation at any point you want, right? And I don't know if you wanted to show anything from the document, if there was any pages or anything, comments you want to highlight, but I just want to briefly.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I would like to show some of that. Yeah, which will form the basis for maybe some collaboration tomorrow.
All I was going to add was, as you were speaking, so my little 2 cents was, you made me think about, I took a watercolor painting course a long time ago, and so I listened to the things about that over the years, and I remember always this statement I heard someone say, and it's helpful to remember, when they describe their process, they say that most of their time is spent in the palette. Most of their time is preparing the palette, and then less proportion is putting the brush on the paper. So that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I could share the screen with the document. We're not going to go through the document. We're just going to acknowledge its existence and see its structure, see the kind of analysis that we did, and conclusions. It's mostly on the layout template, and I think the main message here is that if we want to improve an organization, we have to look at the past, and we have to look at the analysis that has been done and propose changes. I see a lot of chaotic action in open organizations that have very minimal governance. There's new people coming and proposing new tools or proposing new rules without necessarily being connected to the past. So what we're trying to do here with this document is expose new people to the past, to the rationale why things are the way they are, to what we think works and what we think doesn't work. And then within that context, linked to that history, we can then together think about the next steps of evolution of this organization, right? So that link to the past is very important. So this is what this document wants to project. I don't know if it does it in a good way or not, but let me just run through it a little bit. So I'm going to share screen, and here you go. I'm going to share this application here. Share. Okay, so do you see the document?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to start by the end. Okay, this is the most simple thing somebody can do without any knowledge of any organizational model or methodologies of work. You can just look at what people do, right, and extract some data and characterize their behavior, right? So this is like the doctor looking at a patient. And looking at the symptoms. So we extracted some data from Discord, from which was the main digital space where people interacted and left traces in that environment, right? And we can pick that up and do some analysis here. So, we have something very simple, like what was the most popular prompt at the time, and it's an indication where people did flow. Okay, where people wanted to contribute, and then you can ask yourself the question why. Is that because this is an important topic, or maybe because they were good communicators, and they documented well, and that allowed people to get attached to this cluster of activity, right? They were maybe visible or whatever. The depth of discussion in prompts. So you have prompts, and then you can do some correlation, right? You have some prompts that, you look at the discussions, and some of them it's just individuals essentially asking a question, getting an answer, and then there's no follow-up, right? The conversation depth goes to how many times people go back to each other. okay, which is a non-superficial kind of exchange. They're getting interested about something, okay, who cares about what, but they're going at each other. They message each other back and forth many times, okay. So that means that something is going on there. Something sticky goes on there that makes, you know, that interaction going and spinning. And so again, we can ask the questions why it happened in these prompts, and so what happened in the most popular prompts. Okay, why was the most popular prompt not so sticky? You know. Well, these are the, in terms of roles, we can look at who are the people that are that are communicating the most. Okay, when you have a bunch of individuals, when you have a bunch of ants in a colony, they have roles, okay, that are assigned to them. And when we get together in peer-to-peer networks, large or small, people tend to embody certain functions in the organization or take on some roles. Sometimes this is very emergent. It's part of the self-organizing process. Sometimes this is explicit in the beginning, you know, like we did for the Collabathon. Now we assigned ourselves some roles for the discussions. There were facilitators, animators, there were harvesters. Okay, sometimes we know kind of the pattern, and we can explicitly put out these roles and have people assigned attached to them. But in some other circumstances, you know, these roles they just emerge themselves. So communication is an important role, and so we looked at who were the people that are the biggest communicators, and then you can you can look at the role of pollinators, and you can even cross them together. Okay, see if communicators are also pollinators or not. So pollinators are the people that jump from one prompt to another. These are the people that inform different people in different clusters of actions or different silos of what's going on in the other silos, and carry with them information and expose everybody to everybody else, right? And these are also very important because it's inevitable that people get heads down and start working on something and lose their general awareness, because we need to focus, right? When you actually start digging and collaborating on something concrete, well, your mind goes there and you're not necessarily going around and see what other people are doing. But there are people that like to do that. They don't like to dig. They're not diggers, but they just like to stay aware, and they like to communicate what happens. So this is natural behavior, and people go around. Let me see some. Okay, this is there. Whoops. Okay. So one thing that we could do, okay, is gather data and look at people's behavior and ask ourselves why things are the way they are. And can we improve some stuff? I mean, if you look at the pollination and notice that, wow, we just created these silos and nothing goes between them, then we are not doing well in, let's say, guiding this organization to evolve into something very innovative and very productive. So then we can intervene and say, is it because of the tools that we use? Is it because the rules that we have? Is it because of the methods that people are using or the culture of the participants that we get this outcome? Okay, so then you can intervene and in the spirit of building a peer-to-peer open, you know, network for innovation. You can find solutions that are compatible with this type of organization, right? So there's a few dimensions on which we looked at participation last year. First of all, we looked at the organizational structure, this container, how it was formed. We look at the governance. Okay, what people saw, what participants, what kind of governments were they exposed to when they joined the Collabathon? Okay, were there rules that were jumping in their face that they had to follow? Were they aware of some rules, or they, they're just nice people and trying to do their best? So we were looking at that. We looked more closely on the digital environment, the architecture, how it was done, but also how people responded to that. You create a digital environment for people to come in and operate within. Well, some people can get lost, okay? Some people can find it cumbersome. For example, cross-pollination. If your digital environment doesn't allow you to go from one silo to another easily, to navigate, if navigation is very difficult, well, then you will not have enough cross-pollination, right? So we looked at the digital environment. It's the way it was done and what people said about their experience. We looked at how people organized their tasks. How did they manage their prompts, and how tools were given to them. What tools were given to them to do that. We looked at the participation flow, how people got into teams and how they got into prompts, and then how they were moving in between these structures once they were formed. We have some questions about the economy, and I don't remember. Okay, so yeah, so we looked at the whole thing as an economic system. We looked at the property regimes that were enacted within the Collabathon. We looked at people's perception of value, why they were contributing, why they were doing what they were doing. We were looking how the incentives were set and communicated, and how they were perceived by people. Like, why are people here? So we have some comments about that. Means of production, relations of production. So we observed the Collabathon last year according to its economy. And economy here, it's in a general sense. How do you get people to bring resources and use these resources in order to produce something? And in this case, resources might be a physical space where people can gather, like nodes, and some computers as resources, some code that it's found somewhere that people have that they can share, some text that people have and they can share, or running some experiments like we did at the Sensorica lab for the carbon sequestration prompt. And what are the relations of production? How are they organized together to produce that, right? And what are the incentives they respond to, so on and so forth. Because it's not just about having people and a space and some rules and some tools to work together. It's also about having some incentives, okay, to bring these people in and get them stick together. And not just for that 2019 Collabathon, but also, having them develop this feeling that there is something in it for them longer term, so they can come back and continue to build on their work and get engaged into something else. So that is a little bit of format. You have the document, you can look at it, and it's not set in stone. We can continue to develop this way of looking at activity and enhance it. And this serves for every time serves as a feedback mechanism for us to put in place new measures in order to improve the process. And I'll pass it on to Tim.
I just want to make a brief comment. It came up yesterday, just in a chat, actually. I think it was Tabani in the background, of the co-organizing. And we were talking about, actually, I think we were talking about our own mini chaos in the organization of this, right?
Yeah.
And I made a comment to her, and it's relevant here, I think, and could maybe be a good transition. I think if Bruce is going to make some comments. Basically, I said, it's someone was saying, oh, I'm sorry, I should have done this and that. And I said, no. It's all of us together. We have all not seen the full reality of each other individual. So the social translucence, it's called in a way, is not well affected. So you spent a long time maybe working on something. I didn't appreciate that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that my change of a decision at this point in time caused you 2 hours more work. So that's not the main point. The main point is that there's many wicked problems in the world, and climate change is one of them, and there's many others, okay? All around the world we know, and we talk about wicked problems. What we're kind of trying to say here is that effective, rich and full participation of people working on things that are meaningful to them to accomplish and constructively contribute to important matters in the world. That coordination is the wicked problem that sustains all the other wicked problems. So we're just trying with this prompt to step back to see if we can unlock some of the potentials to solve that wicked problem, in the hopes that it then feeds forward to unleash new potentials for all the other wicked problems. And in this case, it's climate change we talk about. So that's all. You're muted, I think, Tobias.
Oh, yes. So what do you think we should go next? Should we go for a round of...
we can do some questions. Yeah, sure. Or yeah, whatever you want to talk about. I mean, I think I know. Yeah, let's.
And then maybe you can prepare your next step, right?
Sure. Yeah, let's just see what people have to say.
Mm-hmm. Input, feedback, questions.
Yeah,
experiences that you have, maybe I can share with other hackathons that happened during COVID-19, or some in the past, something else in the past.
Yeah, something I was wondering about is, what's the feedback mechanism? I mean, you have all this information. How is it played back into the different groups so that they can benefit from it?
Yeah. So last year we were invited to participate in the Collabathon. We took the role of observers of the process itself, and we created a project for that. This year we got involved into the making of this instance of the Collabathon. The open dialogues and so the feedback in the sense is us, right? And since this is an open and participatory organization, the line between those who produce the process or the event and those who participate in the event, that line is blurred, like in any other context of peer-to-peer, where the consumer is also a producer or can be transformed into a producer, right? So the first, what I would say, the first feedback mechanism is people that see something is broken, they can be part of the organization and fix it, propose changes to fix it. Another feedback mechanism is once we learn that something didn't work well, where we felt something can be improved, then we can come back next iteration with a new tool. We say, well, we think the solution to this thing that we felt, this inefficiency, might be that we didn't make a good choice about the tools of communication. Okay, or maybe there was a lack of clarity. So we need some rules. We need to write something on the door and make it clear for people that if we do this, this is how we're supposed to behave, right? Or maybe we didn't use the proper methodology. So there's different layers of organizational structure that we can act. So the feedback mechanism is actually implementing something very tangible, a tool, a rule, a method, okay? Or even operate on the culture of the whole group, okay? And then run that an iteration and see how it performs.
So basically what you've learned from last year, you provided the feedback already into this year's organization?
Yes, actually, yeah. Okay. The learnings that we had last year, because we were there, we were trying to orient the whole group towards what we thought should be improved. It's not always easy because we're not in a position where we, we're not managers. We didn't become managers of this organization. So there's an art of providing that feedback and putting in place the mechanisms that you think would do better for the organization, right? you can't just decide for everybody to adopt a new way of doing things or jump on a new tool. So we had some experimentations with other tools. We had actually an overview of what exists out there that we could work with. And I think there were some good choices in there. Adoption is not always based on how well the tool does. So for example, we considered something for project management for our internal use for the core group to organize the event, and was dropped out. It's not because the tool is not good, but sometimes it's the habits of people within. So it is an art to provide this feedback to organization, right? It's not always easy, but if you are experienced enough, you find ways to do it. And if we look at traditional organizations and compare, yes, traditional organizations can actually flip faster. The danger with that is that they might be flipping in the wrong direction, just because one guy up there thinks that is the good way to do it. Then it flips the whole organization, and they can go really wrong. Here in this context of open decentralized organizations, it might be slow. It might take different skills to do it, but there's a good chance that if there's a move towards something else, it has been considered by a lot of stakeholders.
Okay, so basically everything is organized around a flat.
Well, yeah, when we talk about the governance, now the Collabathon doesn't have formal governance in place yet. We operate according to norms, and it just happens that people share this culture of openness and collaboration. And we have internalized these norms, so somehow it works. My opinion is that this cannot be scaled. Okay, so if we're like, I don't know, 20, 30 people to produce these kind of experiences, if this becomes the global project that we all envision and have thousands of people contributing, it will definitely not scale. And it will be open to attacks. And as we put more ingredients into the mix, suppose that at some point we are able to attract funding that we can distribute into development. So once you create these powerful incentives, then if you don't have the proper governance in place, then you can have very serious problems. And so what do we mean by flat governance? Well, so for now we have no written governance, and it works. It's like the beginning of any open and decentralized group. What I would propose for the Collabathon is something more meritocratic that can scale, and not flat in the sense that anybody can come and propose something, and we have a sort of a flat democracy, one individual, one vote, because sometimes the decisions that we make require technical knowledge and require some experience. And I think in that case, you want to put in place a decision-making process that leads you to the best solution and not necessarily to the most popular solution. The most popular solution is not always the best solution, right? When it comes to specific knowledge and experience. So, so I would go for a more meritocratic type of governance, not flat, but having hierarchies that are temporary and that are used in specific cases, and that dissolve as soon as that interaction is not required anymore. So these hierarchies are not general over all the organization, but they're forming in context, and they exist for that specific problem solving, right? Taking into consideration not just experience and knowledge, but also skin in the game. Sometimes it's a very important thing, you know.
Okay.
Hi, Tiberius. This is Tibor. I like the global approach And nevertheless, and I think it's good that we base our this group on what existed. I also wanted to bring in maybe some thoughts that have been coming during these dialogue times, and listening to your presentation and to what I read in the in the document. And there's a part where it's not so clear for me, the part of resources and how resources are described inside this dynamic. That's one point I think important, because all these tools that are being built become resources as they are all open source. They become resources for the commons. And that aspect of everything that is being produced, I find it, there's like a loss that we stay only focused on the open climate community or on the open climate structure. Whereas for me, the open climate project itself is totally decentralized and open. So I guess if we look at it like something that is everywhere and ubiquitous, we are looking at something that's very territorial, something that belongs in every country, something, and the governance, the open innovation here is to model the dynamics that an open climate project, in the sense of it being totally decentralized everywhere, can be viewed at any time. So like that's the stigmergy you were talking about, being holoptic, give it more holoptism, that at any time we can see who is doing what, where, what community, even to go down to the people level, and which project, which resources, what kind of financing. So that's maybe something that I didn't read in the production, what was produced in 2019. And so I find it interesting, maybe in 2020, to approach the this part this way, is to try and consider that we're not only trying to organize the intelligence, the collective intelligence inside the open climate system, but it's like something laying around very close to the Wikipedia effect approach. It exists, and any climate project can come and feel at home in that place that belongs to us all, and to create that common space, that we, and so I think part of our objective is to create an energy that belongs to us all. And two things to finish. Maybe we have I can chip in some experience of 6 years of working with an open source organization, and having exactly those questions on how you become a common, you create these common places and collective intelligence, etc.
Yeah, I think it's important for you to, I think it's interesting for you to share your experience, and also for people to know where you come from, just to put more weight on what you propose. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we actually are Open Atlas. We're an open source project that we called communector.org. I posted it in the general chat of the Discord. I also put it in the open innovation channel prompt. And the idea was to maybe mix up the two, bring that part of the project, which is an open source project, and 6 years, 12 people, 12 active people. It's very territorialized. It's a societal network, an open source societal network, which last year we did something very similar to what is being done in the open climate on the ecology subject. And the Ministry of Ecology in France asked us to use the territorial platform so that any project can join and connect indicators of what their project, might it be planting trees, reduction of CO2, reduction of waste, with reduction of whatever impact on ecology. And they have 700 indicators according to what sector they are in. And this platform creates not only territorialized indicators and graphs and observation tools, but also national observation tools, which are connected to the local project. So it's very interesting how the link to the open climate dynamic is made. But our global organization as an open source project, we have people who come from outside, we have ideas coming from outside, we have projects coming from contracts, we have a lot of these same dynamics, and we are actually in the process of organizing this. We called it OSECO, Open Collaboration Economy, tools that help manage proposals, then put them through the governance decision-making. It goes through a financing step, and it finishes by a following up, like a project management tool. It's all in one. And it's fairly interesting, but it's not the subject. But mainly what I really wanted to bring up today is how I think today, sorry, I just have to grab some water for my kid. Today, the idea is that the platform is fairly mature, and I think we can go to, my personal idea is to get something running in 2 days, to show that we are capable of producing something based on a model that we have tested, and it answers the questions that were just exposed, is how to present. It's like, for me, I'm a very good example because I wasn't here last year, and the wiki is good, and it's the old way of presenting the textual. It's not yet geographic, but it could be quite easily made geographic. It has some statistics, so that's great. And I guess we have a lot of APIs and data sources that we can reuse to start using this observatory. So those are the few points that I find. I think we could definitely very easily. I actually even started it, but I didn't fill up all the data that's inside the open climate system. But I could do a little presentation if that's necessary to the group, so that if that creates a bit of a dynamic, to make it like a POC. I made a little POC of what can be done, and then there's I kind of listed all these ways we can go forward. It's like going from that data, information, understanding, knowledge, wisdom. That's like the starting point. We can transform all the data that's inside the open climate. But at all point of our thinking process, I think we have to keep in mind that it's on every territory. And there's one thing that's really important to me, and I did not hear this in any talks, is that for me, the big winners, and I think for a lot of people, the big winners of this climate change battle are definitely not the developed countries, are the underdeveloped countries. Those who actually aren't spending so much money on energy and aren't spending so much money on technology. And actually, when I go to Madagascar, I always say they have 2 steps forwards to do, and it's just the way to go. And we have 20 steps back to go because we're just too far and over-consuming the whole thing. And in that perspective, kind of, there's also not only open innovation to put forward, but also that part where the civic tech can be pulled into this thing, where that we all as citizens on our territories can be the sentinels of what's going on. It's already happening. It's already out there. But part of this intelligence you talked about, I think, comes from those people who live on those territories. It's not only IoT, it's not only data sets, it's also the people who live there and who are on ground and that see the things happening. And sometimes the things are coming from outside. And if we connect these citizens as sentinels of the climate, and we can say, who are these strangers who came and cut down my forest and put palm instead, whatever, or just are building a 12-kilometer bridge with cement and all this, whatever impact it has on the global scale. Yeah, anyway, there's this part of intelligence that our peer-to-peer knowledge, that's people to people. If I say, okay, they're building a 12-kilometer bridge on my island, I'd like maybe someone who's an expert in construction. He can say, okay, if I evaluate a 12-kilometer bridge, it's 50 meters high, it's probably that much impact as a construction on because it's cement and all what it costs. And sometimes they can be approximate, but sometimes it can be very sure answers. But that peer-to-peer expertise that people all over the place can kind of come and tell us that citizen says, okay, I have this in my garden, but someone on the other side of the planet can say, you know, that project consumes so much energy or has such an impact on. So that's the kind of networking. I think this collective intelligence and open innovation is also part of.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah. So including also people in the equation, not just sensors and IoT and data, right? But what's interesting from the point of view of this prompt here is here's a clear case. Somebody, not Tim, but Tibor, somebody that comes new to this ecosystem and says, hey guys, we've been working on open source solutions to connect people and connect organizations, and has this kind of local geographical aspect to it. And I think this can help you. What is the path that we provide to these individuals to be able to get acquainted with what's there and why it's there, and then very efficiently, implement the changes that they think it's going to help, right? How are we going to, as an organization, receive this input and facilitate this help? Otherwise, a lot of people that have good experiences and good skills and even tools to provide resources, they might be scared away, right? This is the most important aspect of peer-to-peer organizations, because they all crowdsource their talent and resources. So the more efficient you are absorbing whatever comes from outside, filtering it and put it in the right place, the better you are as an organization. So for us is a challenge, so Tim and I, when Tibor came and other people say, how can we deal with this? How can we provide a path for Tibor to be able to contribute? And that path also requires us to inform Tibor of where we want to go, what is there now and why, and so on and so forth. So that is part of the prompt. It's understanding how to get this input and put it to good use, right, in a very effective way, and in some way also be able to automate that, because we always have to have the scale in mind, right? If now Tibor requires human intervention for facilitating his work, his integration, in the future we might have 1,000 requests per day of stuff that could go in there. So how can we process all that, right? Those are questions that we have. But definitely, thank you very much. And Tibor he knows a lot about Sensorica and our work, and he has been collaborating with us in developing the IT infrastructure for project management that has this kind of organizational model in its DNA. We call that the NRP, Network Resource Planning. So he has been involved with that in the past. What's interesting is that we haven't coordinated, Tibor and I didn't get him involved. He just picked a message on Facebook and said, oh, this is cool. I wanted to participate. So here we are.
And it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
One step more.
Yeah, sure. So, okay. Anybody else or Tim, he wants to maybe...
No, I was curious if anyone else wanted to comment. I see Sung Hee in the list there. Yeah, anyone who maybe hasn't had a chance and really wanted to have a chance to make a comment. We are over the time, but for those who are interested, there's no reason to stop.
So I just wonder what's the next step from today? I mean, everybody's kind of, guess, leaving right now. So what's the next step?
So in the Discord and with the Git book, there's some instructions, but it's really to go and interact with people through, and right now the channels are limited. I think the Discord has been seen as the place, kind of like milling about, foraging around, just pointing out what you're interested in, inviting other people to work on something. I'm actually switching to be a prompt host, and I've spoken a little bit with Tibor. I only met Tibor yesterday, I guess, really. So we chatted a little bit because we saw that we had a common interest, and it was a continuation of some of this. So I'm actually trying to organize a prompt as what they call a virtual node to carry this forward and expand it. And I've invited Tiberius to contribute to that as well. So I'll be in the Discord trying to carry this forward as well.
So what happens tomorrow, Tim? I mean, the open innovation prompt is there, so we can meet on Discord, and tomorrow try to advance this, so I can be there and help everybody.
So there's that map, the Google Doc. So there is a Google Doc that we did lay up, and somewhere there's a link to it where we can sort of put a name for what we want to call ourselves. If we want to list our own names, then someone who arrives there will see who we are, and then start maybe create a Google Doc together, and then we leave the link in that map, and then we can go collaborate in that document to extend this discussion and answer some of the questions that we've raised here.
So let me put the link here, Tim, for people to have it at hand.
Maybe a proposal is for us to all put up our names and our contact points and our competence, or what are our know-how. Maybe that will create a dynamic in the team inside the who's here. And
that's Tibor. That's exactly the kind of thing I was thinking that we would put in a Google Doc, because then I don't know if because then it's a little more persistent, static. You know, other people coming tomorrow, today. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
That's the bulletin board. Let me post the bulletin board here. Yeah. So people have it already, so we save them time. Okay, here you go. So I'll post it in the chat to everyone. All right, here we go. So that's the bulletin board. And if you want to know more, because now we're going to move away from the website as a guide towards the Git book, which is our wiki type of thing for information. So we go to Git book for information. We go to Discord to engage with people, and use this Google Doc to as a market, right? As a team project market.
So basically in Discord, in the node Open Innovation, I would put a post saying, "Hi, Christine, experience in this and that. Can help with this and that," or what's the plan?
Yes. Maybe you engage in the general chat and say, "Hi, I'm this and that." Some people say, "Oh, you want to contribute to my project or check out this project," and then there are individual chat rooms for individual projects or prompts. Okay? And for you to know how to navigate this digital environment, you go to Git book.
Okay.
Okay, so you have that information about the whole organization and the spirit of this project, collaboration, and so on and so forth.
Tiberius, can you copy all the links that you copied in the chat here? Can you copy them in the Discord as well?
Oh yes, where do you want me to put that? For you in particular, or
for everyone in the Discord actually? So because yeah, I'm on my mobile phone, it will be easier for me on the computer to catch it on the Discord.
Good. And just Kristen, just to round out the conversation on that, I kind of look at presently the Discord is like a big bunch of hallways with people milling about down different hallways, and maybe they, right, and the hallways have names on the walls and the corners. Okay. This bulletin board that Tiberius put the link to is kind of like the vendor showcase, where there's actually groups of people who have a common interest standing with their booth, and in this bulletin board document is the description of the booth and who's there. And as Tibor pointed out, if we like, this is what our complementary skills, and then so people could see gaps where they might contribute, maybe, right? And then from that bulletin board, we as a team can also then create anything, a Google Doc, schedule a Hangout, schedule another Zoom session, make a new Discord channel. You know, any kind of tools that we want to bring, we can go to work into our laboratories. And as long as we, as Tiberius pointed out with the Stigmergy, we want to leave a trace, we want to leave a link, we want to leave in the bulletin board under our team description with all our information that we come up with as a summary for others who arrived onto the bulletin board. We want to show them this is where we're doing this, this is where we're doing that. And it's up to us to create those documents, those places ourselves, and self-organize from there. So that's how I make sense of it anyway.
Okay, yeah, I think I have to. The whole organization is a bit blurry for me, I have to say. I mean, I go to Discord, I see all kinds of things, and I'm getting confused. So that's, yeah, I think it's this kind of confusion that I'm not sure where to go, what to put where.
And this is the wicked problem that's
interesting.
All the wicked problems.
I think we should really catch that what Christine just said, because I felt the same when I arrived.
I feel the same all the time, yeah.
Yeah, and there isn't like a place. Maybe that's the key to this open intelligence or open innovation we are looking for, is to create this like a central location. I think the place I see it the most is maybe in the beginning of your doc, where you start the general schematic description. And if I go from there, I would like to have something very, just kind of like an explorer or a navigator that goes into the nodes, into the prompts, into the teams, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And from when I click on a project, then I have all the documents that go from there, or all the team, the community that's connected to it. And today, part of it is on the wiki, part of it is on the prompt page. Then inside the prompt page, we get outside documents.
Yeah,
I think we could really start. It's a good starting point to try and think that first homepage entry point.
Yeah, but let's save some of this for, this is exactly what the project is, right? So, yes. And I think we're 20 minutes over the allotted time, so I'm concerned about that. There was a suggestion to do some introductions, but let's maybe, as we move into forming the team, documenting ourselves in the bulletin board, that we can all convene together on this prompt to move it forward in any other way we decide together. Okay, so yeah, and to every single point you made, Tibor, has been exactly the kind of discussions we've been having in the background as we try to solve this.
Yeah, for sure, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. So I think we should maybe, unless someone has anything pressing, I'm just concerned that we are 20 minutes over the allotted time, I think, and there are some other maybe places people need to go, and I don't want to feel.
But for those who want to stay, you want to introduce us to tomorrow's activities that you are setting up, Tim?
Yeah, I don't know about.
Because I think it's a continuation, right? No?
Yeah, no, it's working time, right? So today there's a couple more sessions shortly. In fact, there might be there's one in 7 minutes I want to get to, which is Karim, and there's maybe a couple others in there that are still some of these kinds of introductory discussions, presentations about either projects or affordances or tools that are available in the environment, and then really later, moving forward from this next few hours in through tomorrow is open time. So there's no program from here. We make the program from here. You make the program from here. Okay, I'm going to head out.
You're going to other rooms, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go. I want to catch Karim's session to introduce the Rosetta Hub and learn more about that, see what's going on there. But I hope to see everybody, and we'll chat in the Discord. We can set up a Zoom, a Hangout, whatever works for us, and we should also get to know each other's time zones so that we're conscious of that.
Okay, Tim. I'll stay
you.
here for whoever wants to continue the discussion.
Okay, thank you. It was great to talk to everyone. Thank you.
I have to leave too.
Okay.
So I just go to Discord and look into there.
That's the best thing, and
Okay.
and ask questions. Somebody will answer and guide you. So just rely on people whenever you get lost and need some orientation. Rely on people to help you.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Have a nice evening.
Yeah.
Hey.
There's a lot of people haven't said much. I don't know if you guys want to contribute.
I'm happy to talk, but I don't really know what to contribute. I'm happy to listen. I found the Stigmergic talk quite interesting and nice. It kind of aligns with a lot of stuff that I've been doing for a while, but there's just so much of that it's nearly purely associative at this point. So I don't really know how to describe anything.
Well, maybe you can say something about your experience with Stigmergy and how it, if you have experienced it in reality or more than just reading about it. Or...
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I can talk about that. I've spent a bit of time in the open environments. So I was part of a 60-person project in London that was an open source crypto wallet that was quite Stigmergic, very bottom up. And we've also been kind of doing similar things here in a hub that we provision for people to come and stay. So we basically keep the space open and then we signal, or we try to make inference about how people are signaling to figure out how to respond appropriately. So it's quite an art rather than like a hard science or anything, but I'm sure you're familiar with that from what you're talking about. So yeah, I've it's kind of innuendo, semiotics, and those kinds of things. It's all the kind of implicit undertones of things that enable people to coordinate, because being very explicit for most humans is beyond our capabilities.
I'm trying to pull up something here to see how it finds itself in the Sensorica environment. I wonder which one. Template maybe. Project. It is about leaving cues, right? Within the, so using the environment to leave cues for other ones to come and find them and then decide what to do based on these cues. So I'm trying to find a good example of how we implement that in a concrete way in Sensorica.
Yeah, I'm very curious about how Sensorica organizes, which is what brought me in here. yeah, it's a learning and improvising game. Like,
Yes. It's all over, but I'm just trying to find something more relevant.
yeah, no stress.
But while I do that, you can maybe fill up the space with
Josh,
examples.
what were the, so you were in the wallet and now it's a hub, and what were your position in all this? Are you a developer or a project manager?
I've gone by a variety of names. I don't really know, to be honest. I think all categories break. So, so the crypto project I was involved in previously was I was a generalist there, which kind of involved all kinds of things: project management, diagram maker, communicator, translator, pollinator, those kinds of things. That's over and done with for me now, although the project's still going. I was made redundant in a crash, so that was that. But moving on, I got involved in several other open source communities, and that kind of that was tricky as well. And now I'm running, or I'm working with peers, I guess I should say, to build kind of two projects. I consider it a living viable systems approach, but we have a structure here that's provisioned by my peer Roberto, called Liminal Village, and you can look that up at liminalvillage.com. And then that's the scarce physical space, and then in the abundant digital space, or the network structure, is hackalong.io, which seems very kind of in line with the Collabathon. And I actually I found out about this through Lisa, who did a prompt last year and is doing a prompt this year, because I've been running around the Odyssey ecosystem in Holland, which is kind of tied in with a bunch of governmental style entities. It's the largest hackathon in the world, or blockchain hackathon, blockchain AI, and a bunch of other stuff. But I'm pretty familiar with them at this stage, because we brought 5 teams there last year, and then they connected with me with Lisa, who said, hey, this might be your thing, because they were trying to sort her out with teammates and stuff like that. So we had a Telegram channel to kind of find people and coordinate.
Excellent. Nice.
Yeah.
Which was that hackathon you were talking about, the biggest hackathon? Which one how do you call it?
Oh, that's odyssey.org if you want to check them out.
Yeah, sure.
So here's an example of how we write a document. This is a template for a grant proposal in Sensorica. So it's a template. People start with a template, right? Just to see how we organize. We use
please,
because it makes it more efficient, and because we want to have the same look and feel, have some uniformity. So the first section in the template is about stigmergy. We'll see what that is, and then it's about building this one brain, right? So stigmergy is just people dropping here and filling up these spaces. What you can do now, what has been done, and future activities. Okay, so past, future, and present. What we can do now. So based on that, people can elect to do something. You can post tasks. So this is just a template made in a Google Doc. Very simple tool. Everybody can use it. We don't want to create a technological barrier as editing a wiki page, which for some people it's too much, right? So we implemented this methodology also on a Google Doc. Then you have important links you paste here just to give people an overview of your thinking space, or the theme. list of partners who's participating, and methodology, building understanding, right? Building shared understanding. You should spend from 10 to 30% of your total time allocated for the work doing that, and it's to get engaged into this crowd thinking process. Clarifications, so when people ask questions about the process or about some technical issues, they put it here, and people that are knowledgeable, they come and put their answers there. Doing some research, so doing some internet mining, information mining, preparing the terrain, so everybody's documenting here. So only after we go through these steps that people start building the skeleton of the in this case is for writing a grant proposal, so it's just applying for money, right? So
sorry to interrupt. I just put a little note for you in there, but I'm just going to head over to Karim's session now. I'm just heading back. I just came back here to drop you a little note there, and I'll see you guys in a bit.
Oh, okay, so you want us to also to go there to see Karim's session?
We can go wherever you want, but I'm just concerned that if we continue this, there's not a lot of audience assembling for Karim's, and it might be that some people here could learn about that now.
Oh, perfect. Yes. Well, yeah. So we can. Yeah, I think he's probably right. We can always interact more, and on Discord.
That's fine with me. It's just Tib, and my time scale is quite short because I'm on Indian Ocean time frame, so I only have like maybe 2.5 hours left. So yeah, I'm definitely interested by Karim's work, but can we maybe do 1 hour or so, like where we really just lay out?
We can do a day and a half. We can do a day and a half, Tibor.
Yeah.
Okay. A day and a half.
I'm here for the next day and a half.
Yeah, me too. So
okay. I'm just concerned that the next hour is time devoted for Karim, and I just
that's fine with me.
Yeah, I didn't want to cannibalize. You don't have to attend it, Tibor, but I didn't want to cannibalize his audience with the attention here.
Sure.
Perfect. Yeah. So Tibor, let's meet on Discord and propose for having an hour or two of working together for sure. And I'm very interested in what you're putting together as a demo. So if you can walk me through that would be perfect. And we start from there maybe.
That's the idea. So that you guys, in your time frame, you can continue. When I come back, I can continue, and that's how we get it running. That was the idea.
Yes. Yeah. So you know what? I'm gonna take a look at it before we reassemble.
After Karim's call, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. See you, everybody.
How do we go to Karim's call?
Go to the back room. Just leave breakout room, and it leads you to the back room. Okay. See you there.